All right, VeeFam, we are back, and I am so pumped about my guest today. I am here with, man, he wears a lot of hats, host of CardTalkPod, editor-in-chief and general manager at 137pm, and the office of the CEO of VaynerMedia, and just an OG Vayner guy, Tyler Schmitt. Tyler, what's up, man?
How we doing? I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to this, and we just had a fun little chop up session beforehand.
Yeah, it's funny. I went into the podcast thinking I was doing it for these reasons, but like the more I do it, like the most fun for me is to be able to just jam one-on-one with people. Like it's a blocked out time, nothing else. And like, it's just my favorite, especially with people that are so seasoned as you with all the stories. And I can't wait to get into it.
I appreciate that.
I will treat you like everyone else in the sense of, can you give us a quick 55-second clip notes on who you are pre NFTs?
For sure. My name is Tyler Schmitt from Montclair, New Jersey. I'm the middle child. I have an older sister and a younger sister. My dad was one of nine, and all nine of them, well, eight or maybe seven of them lived within about 10 miles of each other during my lifetime growing up. And so with that, a lot of cousins, a lot of family, all of them grew up in the town that I grew up in. So community was just a huge thing for me. I graduated Penn State in 2013 with a hotel restaurant institutional management degree. I went and worked in 2013. Fast casual was all the rage. That was kind of like when Chipotle was really hitting. And I always wanted to be entrepreneurial in some sense. And tech and Twitter, when Twitter was SMS, and watching the Steve Jobs iPhone keynote, all those things were like my interests and hobbies. And I grew up a video game kid, like massively so, which I think also has a strong correlation to all things NFT and Web3. But those are a lot of the things where Gary and I ended up hitting it off. But really, when I worked in hospitality and fast casual, helped a guy open a restaurant out of college. And about 4 months in or so, I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. And one day I was crying on my way to work about how miserable I was. And I let them know that I needed to make a change then. It was a small startup hospitality restaurant business. And the guy that started it was like, what do you want to do? And I said, I think I want to work in marketing and digital marketing, mainly because of my love for Twitter and understanding what was going on there. And he connected me with his wife, who was an executive at an agency. I met her for coffee. She connected me with someone that worked at Vayner. I got an entry-level position by the grace of God at VaynerMedia. It was 250 people at the time, office on 23rd and Park. And I walked into what felt like a place that I belonged at. I had no idea who Gary Vaynerchuk was when I started working at VaynerMedia. I didn't know his background. I had never heard of Wine Library. What's funny about Wine Library is that my family owns a liquor, wine, and spirits shop in Montclair, New Jersey. My aunt and uncle, so my godmother, my dad's sister, owns that place, and I grew up working at it. And that was a random coincidence.
That's amazing.
Because of the Jersey roots and a lot of different connections and circumstance and luck, to be super frank, when I started working at Vayner, I got paired up with someone his name is Kenny Crocker. Kenny Crocker's roommate was an individual named Matt DeMeo, and Matt DeMeo was Gary's assistant. All of these people were Jersey people, Yankees fans, Ranger fans, and just kind of cut from the same cloth. And one random day, I was about 6 months into working at VaynerMedia, and Matt DeMeo called me at like 9:30 on a Tuesday and said, hey, we need a 10th person for Gary's private pickup basketball run. Would you be in? And I said, of course I'm in. And then I hung up the phone and figured out, how do I make it to a 6 a.m. basketball run in New York City on the other side of the city when I am living in Montclair, New Jersey? That started about probably 8 weeks in a row, where I took a 4:30 train into Manhattan to play basketball with Gary and AJ and a subset of another crew. And then on a random day, I met with my manager and asked if I had interest in interviewing for AJ Vaynerchuk's admin role.
Amazing. So
that was
first
more
of all,
than 55 seconds.
No, I appreciate it. And I know there's so much that happened there, both on the page and on the surface level and underneath. Are you a morning person at that point, or you just know, like, oh, I need to show up for this?
I wasn't a morning person or an evening person. I was an opportunity person. And it was always figure out the details and logistics afterwards. Like, I think too many people factor in why they shouldn't do something when making a decision versus figuring out how to do it if you want to do it.
So I just want to take a quick step back, because you're probably one of the few, I think you're employee 291, I've heard you say. So pretty early on, probably one of the few that didn't know who Gary was coming into Vayner. I mean, everyone that wouldn't exist right now but when did you figure out, I mean, usually I ask people like, when was the first time you heard the name Gary Vee? When did you figure out like actually who he was, or, this guy is special, this guy's different?
So on Friday, I started on Friday, November 11th, 2013, which is weird because typically people start on a Monday, but that Friday was what was called Vayner Day. And what Vayner Day was, they'd take half the day and do charity. So they'd take half the day and they deploy the whole agency against the nonprofit and charity work. And then for the second half of the day, they did internal talent show and culture building and essentially drinking and drinking games. So I got reached out to, I was supposed to start on Monday and I got reached out to on Thursday, like, oh, you're starting on Monday, but we have this thing on Friday, Vayner Day, you should come in. So I came in. That was my first day. It was like, hey, we're going to work on charity. And then everyone in the company's playing beer pong and, whatever. I'm like, this place works. The Sunday between that Friday and the Monday that I started, Gary was on the cover of the Sunday Business in New York Times. So that was
Boom.
like, all right, cool. People were like, this is your new boss. But still, it wasn't too much
Hmm.
of like, this is a CEO. This is a guy that founded a business. Obviously, I was Googling and looking stuff up. Matt Sittimer was in videos, but it wasn't like, oh, here's this like crazy. Thankfully and gratefully, I've been around a lot of successful people in my life growing up. So I wasn't like, this dude's different. It was like, this dude's obviously running a successful business and matters and is in the mix. When I met him in my first one-on-one, he was drinking a soda that was probably a little overweight. I think he was having soda and chips. I don't know if I've seen him have soda and chips in the last 8 years.
Right.
When I really, really probably knew was after I started becoming Gary's AJ's admin, and I worked closely with Gary on planning AJ's bachelor party. And then we went to Vegas for AJ's bachelor party. And that's where I was like, oh, this cat moves differently. That was the first time I really hung with him on a personal level. I was like, yeah, this is some energy I want to really fuck with.
Amazing. So just to reset, so you're working as community manager. That was your first gig. I think
Yep.
Lipton was your first account.
Yeah.
Chris.
Briscoe's tea. Yep. That's exactly
So
right.
couple weeks, you show up to the game, which is
Yep.
the most important part,
Yep.
but you actually performed. And I've heard, a lot of people that listen to this podcast are also deep into the Gary world too. And he's mentioned multiple times on how he's hired people just on how they compete in sports. So it's safe to say you probably brought it. I know you're a baller, so you probably brought it and ended up in AJ's world. Talk to us about how you transitioned from being AJ's admin to Gary's.
Yeah, totally. And on the basketball thing and on the hiring of people, it's far less about the skill. It's nice to get 10 points. It's far more about the energy and the passion and willingness to compete, because nothing sucks more than when you're trying to compete with people and there's one or two people that could care less whether they win or lose. It ruins the whole fun for everyone.
Of course.
It's like, if you don't care, then, and I really care, it's less fun for me to care. So just like, even because we just started playing basketball again, and there's a couple of people that aren't like great basketball players, and I'm by no means a great basketball player, but it's like, what are you doing between the lines, and are you willing to fucking give it your all?
Bingo. Plus, you learn, you could take any sport and there's all of these nuances and situations where you can learn a lot about that person just by the way they handle themselves in that moment. Like they crying and bitching that they got fouled,
100%.
right? You can take any sport. So I love that story and how,
The original question, because sometimes my sister gives me feedback that you don't answer the question when people ask you. The transition was actually very interesting. A lot of like in the earlier days of kind of being Gary or AJ's admin, it was kind of like this propel to kind of like career growth. And when AJ had let me know that he was stepping away from the business as COO, we kind of were like, okay, what's my next move going to be? And at the time, we were getting ready to launch a London office. Eric Fulweiler was going to go out and head that up. And I was locked in to be one of 5 people to go over to London and help them open their office and work in like account management, which, as you can imagine, as a 24, 25-year-old dude, was like a pretty big life
right, of
career
course.
move that I was pretty pumped on. I love London. I love Premier League. I love the culture over there. Like, I just was like, all right, this seems like a cool play. And I really got over the hurdle in my mind of like, I'm going to do this. And probably within, I've thrown out a couple of ranges, but I would say truthfully, like, it was like a month out of like, I'm moving. Paperwork was in motion. Like, it was happening. And we were at the office one night, late night, probably like 7:45, 8 o'clock. Small crew. Andy was definitely there. D-Rock was definitely there. Matt DeMeo was there. Gary was there working. And there was always a crew of us that like,
Right.
the boss got to leave before the boys leave, you know? Like, and he calls me into his office, which is like, oh shit, all right, what's good? I'm, again, 24, 25 at the
Mm-hmm.
point. And he's like, I think I want you to be my admin. Matt DeMeo is going to move into a new role, and I want you to be my admin. And I was like, what about London? He's like, well, that, no issue. We can figure that out. I'm like, all right, I'm in. He's like, go home, go to bed, sleep on it. We'll talk tomorrow. And I woke up, I texted him. I'm like, yeah, man. And made the transition. And that was that. It was definitely different. It was like one of the early moves. So AJ left in like February. My birthday's June 2nd. And everyone in the company gets their birthday off, or did when it was a smaller company. Now it's unlimited vacation policy. So, of course, you can do what you want.
Right.
But everyone, it was like you had to take your birthday off. You don't work on your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember texting Gary like 5 days before my birthday, like, I'm gonna play golf with my dad on my birthday. He's like, bruh, nah,
No.
nah, this is a different game we're playing over here. I was like, respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all evolved in how we see the world and work-life balance and all that since, but it was full steam ahead, and Gary needed that support and infrastructure around him to make it work. And so, it really learned about, I think, like, just what people are capable and possible of. You always got a little bit more in the tank.
Yeah, amazing. So I think this is accurate. I took this from your LinkedIn. So you're in this role from April 2016 to February 2020. And, if you watch Daily V, or if you just know anything about Gary and how much he crams into 5 minutes, the whole 7-minute meeting thing, that is a lifetime of experiences and conversations and decisions and situations and fires that be fought. Like, so I can't even begin to understand the life experience you got just in, no matter how old you are, just in
Yeah,
that short amount of time.
totally. Yeah.
And I mean, just for logistics, and feel free to elaborate as much or as little as you want. From being that role to office of the CEO, I mean, what does that actually mean?
It was the difference. What it meant is I just was a little bit out of the weeds of like scheduling on the day to day. So when I first started as Gary's admin, it was the first time he was trying out two admins. India Kaiser, who hosted part of the Ask Gary Vee show with him, was helping out with that for a little bit. So her and I were a tandem. And then we kind of had this rotating cast of people that I was working with. And there was just always some like more work than just being the logistical coordinator of Gary's time, whether it be relationship management or projects to run out, or just as the company grew, it was like there was so much always new balls and projects to be kind of managed. And I kept finding myself involved in a lot of different things. And so that was really the elevation of that, but was still just like core infrastructure and support for Gary. And really what it was, a lot of like relationship management, helping expand Gary's time by being able to be his eyes and ears and speak with individuals on his behalf, more than just, do you need to see Gary? What's the logistics? Where does Gary need to be?
Hmm.
What time does he need to be there? Where's he having dinner, etc.
Gotcha. Yeah, amazing that. And I'm happy to start to get to know you more. Like, you're just checking all the boxes for what it seems like you're checking all the boxes for what he was looking for, what he wanted, not even just, the work ethic and what you're putting out externally, but just who you are. And I wanted to share this quote from all the way back, Daily V 57. So just to set the scene for the listeners, it was moving day. They were moving from 23rd and Park to Hudson Yards. And the kind of storyline within the episode is Gary is worried that his office at Hudson Yards isn't going to be ready. So he's asking people like, are you going to make sure that my office is ready? Like, I want it to be like, he doesn't want to lose time, essentially, right? Like, he wants to be like, he's excited about the move, but he wants to go in there firing off when they move into Hudson Yards. So he's asking everyone. And I pulled this quote. He says, Tyler, I always trust you because you always tell the truth. Tyler doesn't lie. And he's like, Tyler, my office is going to be ready. And he was just so matter of fact about it. I read in between the lines on that one. And, it's no surprise they stuck around for that long.
It was a special day, a day, honestly, that like I'll never forget. It was a day that I think the company went from this band of crazy characters that were making up a social media marketing agency on 23rd and Park, in Midtown, like the real Madison Avenue, like fighting against the man, to moving into this brand new, massive beautiful, sparkly development. And we came into this place just as we left the other one, like scrappy and hustling and strong. And, it was really cool. I just always try and find opportunities that of value and make no sense. And so a couple of things. I think he even in that was like, I want an orchid. I want an orchid on my desk. I don't know if you remember. He said that. And so we made that happen. But in like the week leading up to this office, I mean, I'm here. When we moved in, this building that you can't even see the top of wasn't there. That building, which you can see the top of, wasn't there. Like none of this was, we were the first people here.
Right.
So there was like, for the week leading up to it, it was like me and two people like helping set up this whole space. I was like, that's super cool. Here's like a super legit company moving into an office. Here's something I'll never forget. At the same time, my entire family, my mother and my father and my two sisters, and I was supposed to be going, but we had a family trip planned to the Swiss Alps. My mother went to boarding school growing up in the Swiss Alps. It was the first time we were all going there to visit where she went to school. And this was in the summer, so they were going to be hiking in the Swiss Alps. And when I found out the moving date, the trip had already been planned, and I didn't go on the trip with my family because I felt that I needed to be around for this moment in our company's history. It's something that I remember to this day because my family talks about the trip to this day as something that was really fun and special. But there's nothing great that happens without some form of sacrifice. And I would still make the same decision no matter what. And I think that Gary just put up, I think, a post about discipline on Instagram that really resonated with me because I think that over the last 2 years with COVID, just some of like, if you really want something, the actions that it takes to do and make happen and what you need to sacrifice and give up has been washed away a little bit, not because of any bad reason, but because we've been so focused on just making sure everyone's good and comfortable and safe position. But if you really boil that down, not a lot of good comes out of being safe and comfortable all the time.
I concur 100%. 100%. Thank you for sharing that. That's so kind of serendipitous. I just, chose that random moment and such a strong connection and thing to highlight.
It's my favorite episode of Daily V, like all
Really
time, moving day. Yeah. And we actually
amazing.
had a special moment. We got to watch it when we were all together and Gary was doing the drawings for Veefriends, D-Rock and Andy and myself, Nima, Phil, a bunch of people were out there. And like just one night we opened a bunch of wine and watched Daily V episodes together, which was really cool. And something even when we would record them, we would say like, we're going to look back and do this. And that was kind of the first time we'd ever like actually done that. We watched that episode and it's just a day I'll never forget.
Oh, amazing.
And then at the end, Gary like had a flight to take and it kept getting delayed, I think.
Yep.
And then he left to go to the airport, came back to the office. We were having a whole ton of fun.
But yes, spoiler alert for everyone listening. Episode 58, Gary's office is done and he's happy with it. The whole backdrop, which is of course changed. So that was cool just to see, the original Gary backdrop versus now. Obviously Veefriends has changed that, but super cool. You have so many pockets. I could jam on this forever. We could talk cards for an hour. We could talk Veefriends, but you can't skip the 137 era before we get into some Veefriend stuff. I heard that you were in charge of finding the person to take over 137pm. Obviously, I think Piroau came first and then 137. So talk to us about the process of you going from trying to find the man or woman for the job to becoming that person to run 137pm.
Yeah. So like in that, we launched 137pm and Gary's a different cat. I think that what Gary was looking for out of us doing 137, and we had just acquired this big business, Piroau, that came in with a ton of people, and there was some turnover initially when we launched 137pm of just who was kind of at the helm. And after I think kind of the second individual that was leading it departed, I started to really get my hands in it. Like when I mentioned about the office of the CEO and different projects and spending time, I was spending a lot of time with Mary Kate and different folks just on 137pm and the direction that Gary would like to see it be taken. It was taking up a decent bit of my time. COVID had just started. That went into the All-In Challenge, and there was just a lot going on. And I was spending a lot of time, and it was like, okay, we need to find the person to run this thing. And I met with a couple different people, and it was probably one part not really either having the experience or using the resources to really go there and find the person, and a move of like, I'm going to just do it. I'll just do it. But then on another hand, it was like, here's something that is a completely new and fresh challenge that will put me in a super uncomfortable position. And then at that point, I'd been at the company for 7 years and felt like just a white space of, again, opportunity of like, wow, maybe I can run this thing. And it's not something that I'm super confident in or have. What I know is I think I can lead people. The rest I think we can figure out:
Mm-hmm.
processes, operations, brand building, etc. So I called Gary like 2 days before we were supposed to meet and review candidates, and I was like, "What do you think about me doing it?" And he's like, "I'm in." And that's how that happened. It was a very big decision that I had been thinking about for a while, but kind of came together fairly quick. And that's been, I guess, 2 years, like next week, honestly.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Obviously, like you said, totally different, totally new spectrum of responsibilities and issues. You're dealing with personnel, you're dealing with, ad revenue and all of the things under the sun that I probably don't even know half of it. But well, let me start here. What was the most surprising part? Now that, you're 2 years, you can look back, what's been the most surprising aspect to it? Like maybe you didn't think you would have to deal with this or be responsible for this, but now you did.
I think it's really about building a team and leading people. And there's so much packed in, like just the quote of like, you work for the team doesn't work for you, and how locked in you got to be able to deliver for a ton of people on a daily basis, and how internally strong you have to be with like your own self. Still like working on, but in a better place than ever on. And that's been, I think, the hardest. Like I thought I had it. Coached sports teams my whole life. I managed some people when I was with Team Gary. Like it's really been like that, to like really be able to mentor people, to give feedback, to teach them. Like there just has to be so much removed out of your own self as to like the why, and really understand other people's why and how you can help them. And that's been definitely the biggest challenge. Operationally, processes, content, algorithms, insights, all that stuff. And Gary, I would always get frustrated. He'd be like, it's not that serious. Like, I'd be like, something is like killing me before I was working at 137, like big business challenge, whatever. But
Mhm.
it's like, it's not that serious. We're just out here making some content, and it's just clients, it's just money. But like humans is what it is. And that's been, I think, the biggest thing, which has been the healthiest because it's made me work on myself a lot.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah,
And,
what's it? How you gonna win if you ain't right within? That's it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I do want to take a beat for a second because an overlay of this whole podcast is community. Veefriends would more often than not, it's the whole Vayner universe, right? Because he started this thing. And, I talked about this with Andy a lot, like how authentic that Gary is when you meet him, Andy, like anyone, like in that little pocket that you guys are in, but just how it trickles, that authenticity, that kindness, that sense of gratitude just trickles all the way out. Like, and I don't want to make this about me doing what Gary said, writing content, putting it out there, and then have someone like Nick from 137pm, someone like Ezra to honor me as part of the community, share my stuff, send it to Erica, getting me in the ecosystem. Now I branded as 137, like, in the family, and I'm perceived in a whole new light out there in the world. And it absolutely changed my life. And it's still like, I'm still in that transition process and I
Mhm.
can't be more grateful for that. People are practicing what they preach. It's amazing to see from the outside, but to actually feel the repercussions and the positive consequences of that, of what you guys are in the world is amazing. And I just want to put it out there in the world.
I appreciate that. I
So
appreciate you sharing that. It's a good crew. It's a really good crew, and yeah, I'm grateful to be a part of it. Every day. Honestly, it's like I couldn't in my wildest dreams have thought it. And it's why I brought up initially that my family that I'm a part of,
mm,
because there's just being part of something that's bigger than yourself. I think is really important and dictates a lot of the ways that people move. And there's this thin line between like people wishing they didn't have to have people attached to them and all these responsibilities. I mean, you're about to have 3 kids, right? And it's like at a certain moment in the day, like, geez, I wish I was just like single and had my own apartment and like,
Right.
I can't deal with any of this, But like, what? No. Having those responsibilities and being able to, like, your actions, whether it's you're showing people your actions and they're picking up on them, whether you're doing things, using your time to help other people, it's just like the most fulfilling stuff.
I want to pivot to VeeFriends really quick. So I guess we're taking a step back from the timeline. When was the first time you heard that word VeeFriends? Or no, you probably heard about it before it was actually VeeFriends.
Yep.
Take me to the time where you heard Gary was going to do this wild thing with NFTs.
Okay, so here's the crazy one. In 2015, I guess the cycle of things, 2015? 2015 and 2018 were moments. And then really 2020, right? Am I getting that right? 2018, there was a big bull run in like Bitcoin and ETH and everything, right?
Yes. 17, 18. Yeah.
17, 18. So it's funny. I just came across the guy's Twitter account, this kid, David. We were pretty close to launching Veefriends in 2017, 2018. And it was going to be Vcoin. And what Vcoin was going to be was a community token that people were allowed to exchange for. And we had spent tens of hours, Andy, myself, D-Rock, Phil Toronto heavily, because he was overseeing a lot of like the crypto moves and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were like probably within weeks, which also taught me a lot, of launching Vcoin with this company Roll that was doing it a lot, different coins and whatnot. And so like the access tokens in VeeFriends was like the core of what a lot of that project was. But it wasn't NFTs. It was like a coin that you could
Right.
redeem. We were deep into K-Swiss stuff at that time. So we did a lot, even with K-Swiss. We did this thing, the 50 pair party. You buy 50 pairs. We threw an event for you. And then sports cards and rarities. So that was like a little 2018 thing. But what was crazy was like, it was one of the first things that we had really spent out and built a lot of time. And then Gary just like really, it gets to that singular moment of like, are we going to launch or are we not going to launch?
Mm-hmm.
Or not even, I didn't even think of like, oh, we might not launch. But like we'd done all the work, and then the decision was like, no, we're not going to do this. And I was like, damn. Like, really? Another instance that happened was we were going to roll out these T-shirts with a K-Swiss launch, and we had designed the whole thing. We'd produced the T-shirts, and you guys like, I don't want to do them. I'm like, what? That's crazy. But then February 21 was Punks when we got into the mix on CryptoPunks. We went to California, I believe, in May. And so I started.
This was the block of time you guys planned it, right?
Yeah,
So
we went away.
you were at that party.
Yeah. That I was. 8 days in Malibu. Probably a couple weeks before then.
Oh, so it happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been
Vayner
ruminating on it. We'd been talking about what is our play in this. And obviously there was all of the relationships we had, IP rights. Like there was a land grab of like, oh, let's go out and get everyone's like IP. And then we're going to sell them as NFTs, roll them up, get on board. And I just remember one night calling Gary and being like, yo, have we thought about this, this, and this? And he was like, we're doing a complete own. And that was like, dope. Then we booked the trip, and it was like, we're going out there, and he's going to draw all the VeeFriends. And then the rest happened from there. Yeah.
And are you, I mean, when VeeFriends started, VeeFriends, it was, I don't even know exactly who was there. I know the team was very, very, very small. With Andy at the helm. Are you in on any of those meetings? Are you giving your ideas? I know you were all over the place, but
yeah, we sat around a table for like 6-7 days straight, and Gary drew, and he's got very much his own thoughts, but everything from the animals that we should be thinking about, attributes that we should be thinking about, potential access tokens that we should be thinking about, strategy. But I was also like, okay, trying to figure out, keep up with, because his brain was on a million. Like, oh my goodness, so much possibility, and trying to keep up and learn not only the tech but all that. But I was doing 137pm at that time. I just started like in February. So, so I'm like, yo,
your bandwidth is so great.
Not only my bandwidth so great, but I'm like, I need your help on this thing over here. He's like, nah, bro. So I was kind of in full transparency while I was there. I was in this little bit of like, because 137 started covering crypto. I'm like, how are we tied into Veefriends and like, where's my angle? Blah, blah, blah. What's the play? It was just a lot of like even emotional, like career stuff, but we were just
Sure.
going forward. And Andy sat in a chair next to Gary for the entire time. And I remember clear as day. And at the time, Andy was trying to figure out what Andy was going to be doing because he'd been running Team Gary for quite a bit.
A long time.
And there was conversation about Andy going and doing something outside of Vayner even. They launched Empathy Wines. So Nate and Phil were kind of doing Empathy Wines. And me, D-Rock and Andy, Ambitious Kids, had seen that. Like, we want to do something. And yeah, I just remember Gary being like, Andy, you're going to be the president of this company. And that was really cool. But yeah, I was in the mix with that whole week. Something I'll never
Amazing.
forget. Yeah.
I can't remember what he shared. He had the name of you guys were going through the naming process and he was kind of ribbing Gary a little where it's like, it had to be Gary's idea. So Andy shared an idea that Gary just shot down. He's like, fuck you, we're not doing that. And then he named it something very similar. Was there any fun idea that you threw at the wall that did not stick?
None that come to my mind specifically on the Veefriends or like there's not one. The only VeeFriend that super resonates with me from a moment from there was the Spiffy Salmon, because we just had a moment where we were so mentally out of whack. And just remember thinking, and he drew the character. Actually, the drawing I think is one of the freshest.
I like it, yes.
And I was just like, we're all sitting there, and I'm like, Spiffy Salmon. I said it out loud, and we all just started fucking dying. He's like, what are you talking about? But no, that's definitely a thing. Like, just how to navigate Gary. And it's almost like you throw a pump fake so that he lands on the actual thing that you want to, like.
That's awesome.
So you give an idea that you don't actually think is the good idea,
Right.
which leads him to the good idea that, and that's not to sit here and take credit, or he doesn't,
Playing
like,
chess.
whatever. But yeah, chess moves. And that's
Amazing.
probably what Andy was referring to as well.
So do you have a favorite character?
I do. I would say my favorite character is be the bigger person.
Amazing. And is there a character out there that you feel, and you've been amazingly transparent and vulnerable throughout this, but is there a character that you feel like you need to spend more time with to get that by osmosis, get whatever they're putting out into the world?
So I minted one Veefriend, which is funny that I always tell people, because I get on a bunch of calls and they're like, I wish I believed more. Like, I finally caught on and now I have X. But like at first I was unsure. I'm like, well, yeah, I was there the entire time and I only minted one. So
Right.
people probably think I've made an insane amount of money off of Veefriends. I'm like, no, I minted one and I still own it. I've since bought more. I bought one at like 16 and a half ETH at the top and all that. But the one I minted was, when you live for their validation, you aren't living.
Love it.
And the reason being is because I think, back to even what I was talking about with managing people and what have you, like what you're doing for. And I think a lot of people's answer in the deepest down of themselves would be to make someone else happy with me. And that's just like a really, I think, powerful thing that, like, if you really get to the core of it and like are really doing what you want to be doing to make yourself happy in the time that you're alive, it's like the most powering thing, because then you can actually begin to like bring value to other people. And it could be as easy as like your mom, right? Like, how many people are lawyers simply because their mom or dad wanted them to be a lawyer? And they might make money and they might be happy and live a great life and do all that thing, but there's probably an ounce of them in there that's like, I really don't like being a lawyer, and the only reason I'm a lawyer is because I felt I had to earn the validation of my parents or my friend or my girlfriend at the time, or my aunt or my uncle or whatever it might be, or my boss. And so I think that one, as I even work through all this stuff with me managing people, and like, should people's job be to do my job well so that my manager is happy with me so I get a raise and promotion, or should I be doing good work because I enjoy the work?
Right. I love that answer because it probably hits home for probably everyone on some level. Amazing.
Yeah, whether that's on Twitter to get the follow from the random person, the look from it's just like, yeah. And I think that as I've gotten to be and know Gary more, it's like, I think that's really actually what is different between him and everyone else.
Thank you for sharing that. I know we're short on time. Do you have 3 minutes for a last segment?
Yep, I do.
Okay. Well, before that, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Like I said, I could go down so many different lanes with you for so long, go deep. I appreciate your time. I know.
Of
how many
course.
plates you have spinning, but hopefully this is the first of many combos.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
for the last segment, I call it micro macro spitfire. So I'm going to just
Nice.
fire up a whole bunch of questions. You can get super macro, yes, no, one word, or take the microscope out and elaborate as much as you want to. So here we go. If someone's just getting into VeeFriends for the first time, who's one person they need to follow?
Someone's just getting into VeeFriends for the first time. Who's one person that they need to follow? Gary.
Favorite teacher you've ever had and one reason why?
Miss Jeffrey's kindergarten teacher, because she was one of the warmest people I've ever been around. And I met one of my best friends for life on the first day of kindergarten. And she helped further facilitate our friendship rather than thinking we were troublemakers and separating us.
SGC 10 or a PSA 9?
PSA 9.
Yeah, I'm going to get a little selfish on this one. I'm going to ask you two.
Yep.
So thinking ahead to World Cup 2026,
Mm-hmm.
who's one person that people should start collecting now? And then I'm going to get a little more narrow. Who on the U.S. team specifically should we be looking at as a sleeper?
I would say Christian Pulisic. And another one I would say is Marcus Rashford.
Amazing. A secret talent you have that most people don't know.
Wow. I do this thing that, like, I can make this kind of noise. That
Pretty loud.
Caroline the other day was like, "What the hell are you doing?" But it's funny because my mother's father, who I never met, he passed away at a heart attack in his mid-50s, used to do it when he was thinking. And I find myself doing it a lot when I'm thinking, and it's just like this random way to snap. I can whistle in a weird way, but this is one that I just don't think people do a lot, which is just you can create a little like air pocket right here and then snap it. But if you just ask someone to try to do that, they look crazy and have no ability
Right.
to pull it off. So probably just once I found out that my grandfather had done it, probably all through middle school and high school, I was like doing it every day. And
That was your
yeah,
thing.
yeah, that's my thing. That's a lame answer, but
No, I love it. It's yours. It's
yeah.
authentic to you. The time machine tiny ogre can be traded for what? Not official VeeFriends advice.
The time machine, is this a trick question that I don't know the answer to?
The book game.
Yeah, I know the book game token and character.
So people pontificate. At some point, you can burn your ogre for X. People think it's going to be a ticket to Gary's 50th party. People think all types of things.
Got it. Give me the lore. I don't know it off the top of my head. Time machine, tiny ogre in book games
Can be
that
cat burned for what?
is going to be able to be burned for what? And you want me to give you my answer on what I think that thing's going to be?
Yeah.
Time.
Oh, I love it. If you had to drop all of your social media platforms except for one, which would you keep?
Instagram.
Favorite concert you've ever been to?
Favorite concert I've ever been to, the first one that I ever went to, which was Wu-Tang Clan, Sans ODB at what hall? Not Webster Hall. I think it started with an R. In New York City, ODB's nephew came out and performed. But my first concert ever was Wu-Tang Clan with 4 or 5 of my best friends, who I'm all still in touch with today. We probably smoked like 8 blunts over the course of an hour. We were 18 years old, and we came into New York City. And then our friend's father came and picked us up and took us to a diner. So first live show I ever went to was Wu-Tang Clan.
I love that. I'm going to frame this one up a little differently. Usually the last question is always, if you could ask Gary one question, what would it be? And you've so many hours with him, and you've probably been a fly on the wall for so many conversations. I'm curious to hear your thought on the one question that people should ask if they only, obviously you don't know the context of their life and their issues, but they could only have one shot, one question, from your purview. What is a question that they should ask?
I got a weird answer. I think that you should ask a question that you already know the answer to. What I mean by that is, but that you don't want to believe the answer is true. And so, for all the combo you and I had before, when you first decided to quit teaching after 10 years, there was probably a period before you actually, the words came out of your mouth, I quit, or I'm leaving, or I'm resigning, to whoever it was, in which you knew exactly what you needed to do, but all the ramifications of it stared you in the face and kept you from actually crossing the line or the hurdle of doing it. And I think that everyone has that thing. And the reason I bring it up is because I think the most powerful thing is when it comes out of your mouth and what he says is you already know the answer. it'll only reaffirm that you just need to do the thing that is actually the hardest, which is the work to make it the truth.
Oh, fire. The mic is dropped. Tyler, I can't thank you enough for your time and everything that you're doing as an ambassador, just the good people out there and the hard work. So you're a real one. And really look forward to being a part of 137 and to watch it blossom.
This was really fun. I appreciate you having me on. And I appreciate you being a part of it all as well. For real.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Appreciate you, man. We'll talk soon, all right?